who is Soundwalk and how do we come together? I'll let you answer that.
Well, you know, it's a collective of artists. We're all doing our own work, and we're coming together to work on a project together. Soundwalk started 10 years ago in New York, and the first project, we've been doing many projects over the years, but the first project that Soundwalk was doing was to create audio walking tours in city that were not really walking tours, but they were like a sound movie. We will write a script, and there will be a voice, and we will use the city as a backdrop. And the idea would be that somebody will put headphone and will walk into the city and will surrender to the voice talking, and they will get into this kind of situation where they will not know where they're going next. We will time everything for them, we will give them codes, doors, place to enter, and they will literally put themselves in a situation where they will actually do what we tell them to do. And so it was kind of a very situationist kind of situation, and we will take them to the Bronx with Afrika Bambaataa or with Paul Auster, or with many different characters, and then we've done this in China and France and many other places. So this was one of the projects, you know, Soundwalk was, I guess, known for at the beginning of our collaboration. And then progressively we embarked on a larger scale project that was not really so much about the city so much, but certainly about landscape and memories, you know, most of the time. So crossing desert, you know, in Rub al-Khali desert between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Crossing the Mediterranean Sea, the Strait of Ulysses, or the same one later on, 2 years later, with the Black Sea in Medea, or crossing region like what used to be Bessarabia, which is now Moldavia, and going on collecting storytelling of you know, Holocaust, genocide, population in those regions. And I guess last bit, it's our last project that is you know, a different project again, but I think what is really beautiful with what we're doing is that we're usually embarking in very different projects that all have in common sound, and the way we're treating sound, and the way we're collecting sound, and what we're searching in this, you know, on those layers of sound, basically. Because I think what has maybe all those projects are in common is to dig out maybe invisible sound, or sound that are sleeping or existing, but maybe we're not hearing it. And so I think one of the things we're really good at, I think, is to search for those layers and to bring them out and to work with them after. And I guess, you know, the last bit is an extension of that.
Yeah, the last bit is the piece that we did for CTM just recently, and it's been an ongoing project with Berghain. We have basically been doing almost like a sound study of the building and the resonance of the building and the vibration that is caused by the sound system in Berghain. So we basically created these compositions from recordings inside of the club itself, using these very sensitive microphones that only record the surface that they're placed on. So you get these really small, very sort of detailed sounds and resonances that are caused by the rhythm, let's say, of the sound system and the party or the club music happening inside of the space.
It's a project that started quite some time ago, actually, almost 2 years ago. And there's been a lot of sort of testing and finding different ways of how to capture these sounds and what sounds exactly. We started with other buildings, and we also worked with Arma 17 in Moscow last year. And then we finally moved to Berlin, actually, originally, to sort of be closer to Berghain and be in touch with them and study the place. And they've been very, very open to our project, very accepting, very supportive. And they initially gave us access to the building for a full week during the week, and then also for a night over the weekend where we actually really had the time to use the sound system to understand what are the sounds that provoke what kind of vibrations and resonance, and we initially created a catalog of about 150 sounds of the different surfaces of the building, and which is still being compiled today really. So and we have an ongoing back and forth with Berghain, and we show them our work in progress and our way of using those sounds raw and treated, and understanding even if in a sort of composed sort of frame how they could become alive. And then we finally were invited to perform initially at the Elektroakustische Salon, which was this last event in January was produced by Deutschen Radio and Berghain together, and then again a CTM in a sort of different form.
Our performances and projects in general are very site-specific. We usually work with the institution or the venue to really create something unique and that really exists only in that space. And you know, we tend to really spend quite a bit of time to cultivate a piece that really has something very special to do with the space that it's existing in. So something like the last beat, I mean, it's so site-specific that it couldn't exist without the building.
But then again, in the desert of Rubalahali, we were crossing for months in the desert, recording the sound, and then we ended up to play it literally a week later in Abu Dhabi art fair. So there's many also situations where we combining the collecting and literally using the environment where we are to also show and perform.
We tend to have like really intimate encounters with the audience in some way, but
and also a very serious situation because we've been venturing in quite new frontier, I would think. Really playing from really extreme places, and also very conventional. But what we're doing is also so specific that we have many occasions where we have beautiful moment as well as moment of really like being super in this bizarre zone, but also which is very interesting for both the one who is the viewer and for us, because none of actually those would maybe expect us to be here.
It's nice to not be so predictable and not have such a predictable audience and not always have the same audience and the same group or style of people. We don't.
And actually, talking about this, I think maybe when we are one of the most extreme collective of in terms of like reaching to such a large audience. Now we've been playing from the festival of spiritual and mystical music, to the Centre Pompidou scene, to the techno scene of Berghain, to the president of Georgia, to to Odessa and in Ukraine and so many other places. And I think we saw a lot of very different scenes, or to the New York scene where we've been playing also. Anyway, so it's also very interesting because with those different projects, we've been allowed to reaching out a lot of different type of crowd and people and places also. Even in Madrid was very, in Napoli when we played, it was a complete surreal situation also in many ways because the Madrid was in a full crisis. There was a strike going on. They were closing. They didn't want to work in, and so. And then we were playing the sound of Ulysses, which is a lot of sound that was collected also on the bay of Napoli and all over the region there.
We use a lot of binaural microphones for field recording, and we've been using radio scanners, and specifically for the Berghain, the project with Berghain of the last beat, we've been using these very delicate contact sensors And if I have to think of if the functioning of the equipment is sort of interferes with the work or with the sound that is actually being collected in some way, I mean, it makes me think of the desert, for instance, in the middle of the dunes. I remember that we were trying to, the project was based on radio scanning, and but also we used the binaural microphones for field recording, and the way we ended up capturing the sound of the wind, which is naturally distorted, it turned out to be something actually quite beautiful during the performance, because it really gave a sort of particular depth.
First comes the idea, and then second comes what kind of equipment we need to achieve our goal. I think none of us is so much of a fetishist about, and I don't really care. I mean, I think we just get whatever we need to get, and the best possible, of course, equipment to achieve our goal. Whether it is scanners, on the boats to record all those voices, communicating over the sea, or it is those specific mics that we're using now for last beat that are only recording vibration, or it is more conventional microphone. Again, I think it's all about first what we want to get, and then after finding the right tools for it.
But we also spend a lot of time listening to, let's say, the malfunctioning of the equipment or these recordings. I mean, we spend almost just as much time listening than as we do producing or creating, because it's such a crucial part of the process. Yeah. We always end up using equipment that maybe has like a bit of a life of its own, and it has a character of its own as well, from cutting our own vinyl to splicing and playing tape loops live.
That are creating more accidents, that have accident in the the quintessential part of those equipment is that they're ending up to have at some point or another some type of accident that also have their own poetic qualities to it. The digital era doesn't leave much of accident. So we know it's nice for us, I guess, to go back and forth. We also use pretty much whatever it takes to realize the project and to expand on projects. So we don't necessarily stick with one medium, let's say. I mean, the one medium that is consistent is sound. So.
And I guess this is actually quite reflected in the way some of the sound pieces sound. If you listen to something like a Bessarabia piece, or Medea has a completely different texture, and the last beat again is a completely new sound world. We do two big installations in Marseille for the Mucem, which is the year of the Mediterranean Sea. So it's an enormous, gigantic museum opening there, and we're doing a massive installation with more than 30 or 40 tape machines that will play all those sound, on tapes and loops. And we end up to record those, and they'll be doing this over a course of 24 or 48 hours, so the tape machine doesn't stop. People can come anytime over the course of the 24 hours a day, and we see those hundreds of loops, touching each other and playing, basically. And progressively the sound is morphing into this magma sound. And we had to record this and to actually create new composition out of that, because it also have its own journey. The way we're treating the tape and how the tape is touching each other and transferring data from one to another. So I just realized that we have, of course, a CD and a book for me that was released, but then now we're collecting also those new composition we're doing through the course of the years, and also this is also new, pieces, new audio pieces that are still developing and morphing.
Moving to Berlin was mostly in order to achieve this project, and also as a base to produce some other installation work.
We've been living in the past in many places, whether it was Shanghai or Beirut or Tangier or Napoli. I mean, we've been spending months living here and there. I mean, I think we're in Berlin now. I mean, none of us really know what we will be in 3 or 4 months from now, I guess, even maybe 6 months, etc.
Although it has been the places where we stayed the longest.
But we do actually. I think all of us really love to be here. For Europe, it seems to be really the best compromise in my view. But then again, we're moving so much, and our project usually take us in so many different places that really it doesn't really matter so much where we are.